So today is a week 3 in our pizza a month here. Now, if you've missed the other pizza recipes, I'm going to link to them down below in the description. So make sure you check those out. We've done a traditional yeast crust personalized pizza and a no yeast crust, which you can have pizza ready in about under 20 minutes. But today we're doing Detroit style pizza. And now you may wonder, what is Detroit style pizza? Well, it's called that because it did originate in Detroit. It is a thick crust pizza, kind of a focaccia-like crust that ends up nice and crispy and crunchy on the outside and chewy on the inside. Now, it is traditionally a square in shape because it was made in these square rectangular drip pans from the automobile industry in Detroit. Today we're gonna make ours round because I don't have a square pan, but it's still gonna be delicious. And the way they put the toppings on is a little unique, where you have the crust, and then on top of the crust you put your toppings like your traditionally pepperoni, your cheese, and then your sauce goes on top. So join me in the kitchen as we make small batch recipes with big taste. Now we're gonna start by making a crust. Now this Detroit style pizza takes a little bit of time, unlike that 20-minute no knead crust. Your dough has to rise a couple of times. So this is something you need to kind of plan ahead for. But for our dough, we're gonna use yeast, and I'm going to use a dry active yeast. I have a 1/4 cup of warm water here. You want it to be 105, 110 degrees. I've got a 1/2 teaspoon of my dry active yeast, which I'm gonna add in, and then I'm just gonna give it a squish. And then we're gonna set it aside. I like to cover it with a plate or a towel, and we're gonna let that proof for about 10 minutes or so. Now, if you only have a rapid rise yeast, you can totally use that. You don't have to proof rapid rise yeast. You can just throw it in with your flour, your other ingredients, and your water and mix it right up. All right, our yeast is ready. It's nice and proofed, and we're ready to mix the rest of our ingredients together. We're gonna take a 1/2 cup. I'm using all-purpose flour. You can also use bread flour. Bread flour will give you a little bit more tender crust. We need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then we're gonna add in a teaspoon of olive oil. You can also use canola oil, some mild flavored oil, but we're gonna use some olive oil later in the pan, so I like to use olive oil. And then we'll add in our yeast. One of you in the comments gave me a tip about when you're mixing together these small batch of bread recipes, sometimes it's hard to use a stand mixer because there's just not enough ingredients. She said to use a wooden spoon, but to use the end of the wooden spoon to mix everything together. So that's what we're gonna try today. So you just wanna mix this together till all your flour is incorporated. If your flour is not incorporating, it seems a little dry, just put a little splash more of water in, or if your dough seems just too wet, add another teaspoon of flour, just a little bit at a time though, but you know what, that worked pretty great. All right, so I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna grab a little bit more flour, dust my countertop, a little bit of flour, because we're gonna take this dough and we're gonna knead it for a few minutes. Now, you can see that it's tacky, but it's not so sticky that it sticks to my hands. But let's just go ahead and knead. I like to do that with the heel of my hand, and I push it forward, fold it back, push it forward, fold it back. And you wanna just do this until your dough gets nice and soft and smooth. If it sticks a little bit too much to the counter, just add a little bit more flour. All right, after we have our dough nice and soft and smooth, I'm gonna take a little bit more olive oil, and I just like to put a little into my bowl that I'm gonna let the dough rise in, and then I just top it with the olive oil and turn it so that dough is kind of coated with the olive oil. Then we're gonna take our kitchen towel, and we are going to put this into the oven, but I'm only gonna turn the light on in the oven. It's cold in my house today. We had a little snowstorm last night. So you want, for optimal bread rising, to be about 70 to 72 degrees, and not very many people keep their house that warm. So I just turn the light on in my oven, place my dough in there, and we're gonna let it sit in there until it doubles in size. It's gonna take maybe 45 minutes to an hour, kind of depending on how warm your oven is. All right, our dough has doubled in size, and we're ready to put it into our pan. And so I mentioned I'm using a 6-inch metal cake pan because I don't have a square one, and I don't have an automobile oil tray. But you could use a rectangular square baking dish. You just need to make sure that your dish can withstand a 500-degree temperature in the oven, because that is what we are going to bake this at. This is what's going to give us that nice crispy crust and the chewy inside. So 6-inch cake pan. I'm gonna take my olive oil and I'm just gonna add in probably, I don't know, a teaspoon or a little bit more. This oil is gonna give the crust a great flavor and again, help with getting it that nice, crispy, crunchy crust that we want. So, just got my pan coated in olive oil. I am gonna take my dough and then we're just gonna take it and just kind of flatten it out to about the size. You can knead it a few times if you want. We wanna flatten it out to about the size of your pan and let it, yeah, get it there. Then we can just kind of use our fingers to push it. If it doesn't stay totally, you know, to the edges of the pan, let it sit for a minute, let it kind of relax a bit. And then it's gonna rise and fill in the space too, so don't worry about it. All right, so we've got it in there. It's gonna slide right out. And then we are going to cover it again. I'm gonna put it back in my oven with a light on, and I'm gonna let this rise for another, I don't know, 30, maybe up to an hour until it has doubled in size again and that crust is gonna get nice and thick. So after our dough has risen or doubled in size in the pan, we're going to dimple the crust with our fingers, just like you would with focaccia bread, and add our toppings. And this is one of the things that makes Detroit-style pizza unique, is the order in which you put on the toppings. We're gonna add the pepperoni first, then we're gonna add the cheese, and then we're gonna take our pizza sauce and just place it in 3 lines down the top of the cheese. We're gonna put it into our hot 500-degree Fahrenheit oven on the bottom rack for 10 to 12 minutes. The crust is gonna caramelize against the sides of the pan and it will look a little burnt, but that's okay. That's the way you want it. So once it cools enough that you can handle it, you're gonna wanna remove it from the pan. Can you see those nice, crispy, round edges there and the nice, soft inside? So good, let's cut into it. All right. Look at that. Loaded with sauce, cheese, pepperoni, a nice soft chewy inside, crunchy outside. Detroit pizza. Hope you'll give it a try. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And check out my other pizza week recipes pizza month recipes down below. And I'll see you in the next video.